Voters, it's time to know your rights. Know that history is on your side. History has given you the right to vote. Voters, see yourself during the most important election of our time. See yourself casting your ballot and not letting anyone or anything stand in your way. See yourself as the voter with the most powerful voice, the voice of the disabled voter, the voice of the young first-time voter, the voice of an experienced senior citizen, the voice that is black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, the voter that is straight, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, non-binary. You are the American voter who cannot be suppressed. Voters, it's time that you know casting your ballot isn't difficult at all. You just have to know your rights. Voters, you have the right to a free and fair election. That's why our voice will not be suppressed. Your vote is your voice. Call or text 866-OUR-VOTE for more information on your voting rights.
Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Saturday, October the 24th, 2020. On this edition of the Politicrat, it is National Vote Early Day. In fact, Vote Early Day continues on right through November the 2nd, before the final day of voting, November 3rd. Vote early, everybody. That's the focus. Next.
I just said I'm Chinese, but I really apologize because my Chinese isn't very good. So I'm going to speak in English. As a news person, I always told you the truth. But now I'm going to break a rule in journalism. I'm going to tell you what I think. I covered Joe Biden when I was a reporter in Washington. He's a good, decent, smart, and honest man. I think he really cares about Asians. He cares about us. I think like an Asian person. White people don't understand what that means, but you know what I mean. I never wanted to rock the boat. I always wanted to play by the rules. I obeyed my parents. So it's really hard for me to say this, but our president lies. He lies about coronavirus. He lies about climate change. And most importantly, he lies about what he's going to do about our health insurance, our health care. He says he'll preserve all of those pre-existing conditions, but that's not true. He won't. Now that means that your child, if your child has asthma, no insurance. If you have breast cancer, no coverage. If you have coronavirus, can you imagine this? You may not get coverage. I want our peaceful country back again, don't you? We need solutions to the hate and the violence and the racism and sexism, and especially this crazy coronavirus. People think we should know our place, right? Well, I'll tell you where our place is. It's in the voting booth. Our vote can make the difference. If you haven't registered to vote, please register. I needed help to get my mail-in ballot, so I asked for help. You asked for help too, okay? Or vote in person. It's your right. It's your duty. I urge you to vote for Biden and Harris. They care about us and our families. I'm Connie Chung. Thank you.
That was Connie Chung, the legendary news anchor and journalist. She worked for several different news networks in her 30-plus year career, including CBS. She once did the CBS Evening News with Connie Chung, anchoring that broadcast. Connie Chung has done something that really no newscaster has ever really done before, that I can remember anyway. And she is retired, I think, officially now from news. She is retired. But even in retirement, news anchors and journalists do not come out and say who they are voting for or who they are endorsing. And that is exactly what Connie Chung did a few weeks ago. She actually came out, and you heard it in that audio I just played. She came out and announced that she was voting for Joe Biden and that you should go and do the same. That video was one from, I believe, either late last month or early this month. And it shows you how these times really are, right? We are living in a time this generation and previous generations haven't really seen. We have fascism in this country. And I would submit that we've had it for a long time. But what you're seeing now is the quote unquote logical embodiment of what the last 40 plus years have been. And it really began in earnest, or kind of rewired itself under Reagan in 1981. But even before that, with the Powell memo in the early 1970s, I believe 1971, Lewis Powell got onto the Supreme Court under Nixon. And in his memo, just a year or two before he got onto that court, he talked about we need to restore corporations to the front of this country. That has to be at the heart of government, and the heart of the country has got to be big business and the corporate way. And, I'm just paraphrasing here, but that's what happened. And that's where we are now. And look who we've got, a corporate behemoth who is a failed businessman, who has destroyed the infrastructure of this country even more, and in addition to Reagan's destruction of it and neoliberals destroying it too. Bill Clinton didn't do himself any great shakes, and Obama moved the needle, but, did he really do much to upset that infrastructure? No, he didn't. And now Donald Trump, and George W. Bush before him we know about him as an abject failure and a disaster and a war criminal. And look at Donald Trump now. And someone who had never had any experience in government at all, never served in government, never served in the military, nothing. And you see what's happened to the country. And so you've got all of these individuals who never speak out, right? Who say, no, I'm not in politics. The New England Journal of Medicine had an editorial saying, vote Joe Biden. The New York Times devoted 10 pages of its editorial pages last Sunday to telling you why Donald Trump is not the right choice. They spent a lot of time with an editorial about Joe Biden, I believe the week before, called Elect Joe Biden America. That was you have the Scientific American publication coming out and endorsing Joe Biden. I believe it was them. National Geographic, I believe, did as well. These are publications that never say anything. The New York Times always says something about endorsing people. But the National Geographic, I believe, Scientific American, certainly the New England Journal of Medicine, they never say boo about anything political. And the reason why they are speaking is because Donald Trump has destroyed the government infrastructure, destroyed the administrative state. And they know well, as you know well, that 4 more years of that will end this country as we know it. And so Connie Chung joins that long list of people now who have never spoken up before personally. And you're seeing her do it, or you, at least in this case, you're hearing her do it. Some of you may not be of a certain age to remember Connie Chung, but if you are of a certain age, you know very well who she is. And if you're not of a certain age, then please go to YouTube and type in her name, Connie Chung. That would be the quickest way you could get familiar with her, and then do some research on her. One of the few, if not the first, that I remember, Asian female newscaster or anchor to host the CBS Evening News. I can't remember one there before her who did, an Asian female who did. And I don't know if there was an Asian male before her either who did that. I know there wasn't. I think she was the first Asian at all to host that, to have that CBS Evening News. She had it in the early was it the mid-1990s or so? Because Dan Rather had left the evening news at some point, but she certainly did some weekend stints and did some during the week as well. But anyway, Connie Chung spoke out recently, and that audio you heard comes from a video where she's speaking to Asian voters and rallying them to get out there and vote. I didn't know that Asian voters were the least likely people to vote. The least likely registered voters to vote are Asians. I'm really surprised by that. But I honestly think that is changing. And I do, because I think you're going to get a lot of enthusiasm from everywhere. You're already seeing it in these long lines. You've got over 56 million people who've already voted and counting, I'm sure. By the time you listen to this, or, by the next day or whenever, you are going to see that number rise. And I predicted it would be 60 million people before November 3rd, and it's going to be. I'm going to be correct about that. But this is very important. When you see Connie Chung, who doesn't say boo about anything political, since she was a journalist and was an anchor, well-respected, legendary. She did all kinds of interviews, and she's still here with us, and she gives her voice like that. That means something. That means that this ain't any normal election, and this ain't a normal person that we're dealing with in the White House right now. And today is National Vote Early Day. And quite frankly, every day is, especially every day since September the 4th, because that is what you have been doing here in the United States of America. If you live in the United States of America, you have been voting, hopefully. Maybe you are one of the 56 million people who've already casted their vote. And for that, I say thank you. Now the next goal for those of you who have already voted is to get on the horn. Phonebank, please, for Joe Biden's campaign, for a senator's campaign who is a Democratic senator, be that Doug Jones. I really think that you should do that. He needs some help down in Alabama. Campaign for Democratic candidates for the Senate, be they Jamie Harrison in South Carolina, or Sarah Gideon there in Maine, or Barbara Bollier in Kansas, Teresa Greenfield in in Iowa, Cal Cunningham in North Carolina, Mike Espy in Mississippi, MJ Hagar in Texas, Amy McGrath in Kentucky, Mark Kelly in Arizona. I've named, about 10, and I didn't even name John Hickenlooper, Colorado. There are many Democratic Senate races that can be won. And one of the ways to do that is to get involved in phone banking with these campaigns. Get involved definitely with phone banking for Joe Biden's campaign. You can text READY to 30330 to get updates on voting, and also to get to volunteer, to be a poll worker. Young people are needed to be poll workers for this election on November 3rd. Make sure you're one of them. Get involved. You get paid. You get paid money for that. I've done this kind of work before. I was a precinct captain in 2016 at a polling site. I ran a group of 4 people or 5 people to do all of this, and here in San Francisco. So look, it can be done. You can do it. You get paid for it. It's a good civic thing, and I took time off work to do it. So it's your civic duty. You take the day off work, or if you're not working at the moment, you go in there and do your civic duty, and you end up getting compensated for it financially. So this is where these final 10 days of voting, all hands on deck now. And if you are listening to me and you haven't yet voted, please vote. That's the first order of business. The first order of business is to vote. So many people out here are getting on long lines. I know that voter suppression is part of this, but also the enthusiasm of millions of voters is part of this, as is what is at stake. and of course this pandemic and everything else, this is a really big election. This really will be that election that decides where we as a country are going. Because this is a referendum on the last 4 years of a White House that didn't care about the average person like you or like me. This is a referendum on a White House that didn't care about anyone except the richest 1 or 2% of the country. With $3 or $4 billion tax cuts for billionaires. There have been 3 or 4 different rounds of those kinds of tax cuts while we're still waiting for a stimulus to be passed. And you've got Mitch McConnell and these Republican senators and the White House trying to ram through a Supreme Court justice or someone in the Supreme Court. She's going to get on the bench. It's just a question of when, whether it's Monday when the vote is, or whether it's going to be later on in the week, or whether it's going to be the week after. She's going to get on. Amy Coney Barrett is going to be on the court. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't call these Republican senators at 202-225-3121 or 202-224-3121. Call them anyway. Tell them that we are going to hold them accountable. You will hold them accountable if they vote for her to be on the Supreme Court. And they're trying to ram her through, and all she will do is take away the Affordable Care Act, take away protections for pre-existing conditions, which all of us have, take away the right to choose for a woman to choose her own autonomy in her own body, in her own mind, in her own spirit. She's going to take away so many things. This is not some scare tactic. This is real, based on her writings, based on her views, based on the way she's dealt with courts, dealt with rulings in courts as a federal judge. She's going to definitely take away a person's right to marry someone else. I mean, this is just evil. Imagine telling someone they can't marry the person they love. Well, gay people were told that for decades in this country, for centuries. They were told that they couldn't marry someone they loved. That is evil. The LGBTQIA community should be able to marry the consenting adult that anyone in that community who is an adult would wish to marry. And Amy Coney Barrett is going to put a stop to that. I'm telling you, this is not me just making stuff up. I don't make things up. This is going to happen, which means that we've got to vote. We've got to vote for Joe Biden. We've got to vote for a Democratic Senate. We've got to vote for a Democratic House. We've got to vote for Democratic governors. We've got to vote for Democrats in the state houses in our states. We've got to vote for Democrats, judges, sheriff, all of them, right down the board. Secretaries of state, everything, all the way down to dog catcher, mayor, dog catcher, school board. That's how you see difference, and that's how you see change. Differences will come when you vote, and you vote all the way down ticket. Believe me, this will be the rallying cry. We must, after these last 4 years, get rid of these Republicans. They do not care about anybody but the richest people in the country who are making billions of dollars, like a Jeff Bezos, like a Mark Zuckerberg. These people making millions and millions of dollars on paper and on money. They're making money off of money. They're not working in the field for this like you are. They're not doing that. You're busting your butt. You've got a family of 4, family of 5, and you're working 2-3 jobs. And right now, many of you are not working at all because of a pandemic that this guy in the White House has done F all about. He's done nothing about it. Nothing. And he's telling you it's gone and we're turning the bend. We're turning the corner. We're coming around the bend. Give me a break. We're going off the deep end. Come on. Everybody knows this. The gaslighting is absolutely ridiculous. It's off the charts, off the scale. You had 85,000 new cases on Friday alone. Here in the United States. This is the wrong direction. Unless you're part of a death cult and you're a fan of Jim Jones and you want a Jim Jones reunion party with Donald Trump. Because that's what you're getting. super spreader events, Herman Cain dead, 225,000 people dead. This is a reunion for Jim Jones, and 4 more years of a Jim Jones in the White House means that we're all dead. And if you are a psychopath or a sociopath, you might approve of that. But the world and the country that you live in will be a very lonely place.
There is only one America. No Democratic rivers, no Republican mountains, just this great land and all that's possible on it, with a fresh start. Cures we can find, futures we can shape, work to reward, dignity to protect. There is so much we can do if we choose to take on problems and not each other, and choose a president who brings out our best. Joe Biden doesn't need everyone in this country to always agree. Just to agree we all love this country, and go from there.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Hi, I'm Connie Chung. I had a 35-year career in television news thanks to the women's movement and the minority movement in the 60s and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I searched for the facts and I told you the truth. I covered a lot of men who ran for president and the men who made it to the White House. I saw their pimples and their blemishes and their foibles up close. I never really told you what I thought of them, but this year, I can't sit on the sidelines. This year is too important. So it's really hard for me to say this, but our president lies about every issue that's important to us, to women. He lies about coronavirus, he lies about climate change, and most importantly, he lies about what he's going to do about our health insurance, our health care. President Trump can succeed in killing the Affordable Care Act. It comes before the Supreme Court this November. Now that means that your child, if your child has asthma, no insurance. If you have breast cancer, no coverage. If you have coronavirus, can you imagine this? You may not get coverage. He says he'll preserve all of those pre-existing conditions, but that's not true. He won't. And our right to choose Roe versus Wade is in dire jeopardy. Our future, the future of women, is at stake. Do you know that Asians are the least likely to vote? True. I was so surprised. And yet, our population in the U.S., listen to this, can make the difference in who wins. Yes, our vote can make the difference. The Asian vote. People think we should know our place, right? Well, I'll tell you where our place is. It's in the voting booth. If you're not registered, you must. I needed help to get my mail-in ballot, so I asked for help. Please ask for help if you need help. If you trusted me before, believe me now. Vote for Biden and Harris. They care about us and our families. They care about racism, they care about sexism, hate, violence, our jobs, the killing of unarmed blacks, our equality, and specifically discrimination against women. I want our peaceful country back again, don't you? I urge you to vote for Biden and Harris and the Democratic ticket all the way down the line. I'm Connie Chung. Thank you.
Welcome back. That was Connie Chung again, this time in an ad, an English language ad targeted to voters in general. young voters, but all voters, I guess, to get out and vote for Joe Biden. I think it was a really good, both of those ads that you heard from Connie Chung, who is a legendary news anchor and broadcaster and journalist and reporter. She has been, she retired. Now she's retired from the profession, but that takes something. It's very unusual to see someone in the news business who comes out, who's part of, not a commentator, not a pundit, because that's not what Connie Chung is or was. Connie Chung is not a pundit. She's not George Will. George Will's the kind of person who, he's a pundit. He's not an anchor for anything. So he's a bit more, because he's an opinionator, if you will. He's going to say those kinds of things. But Connie Chung is a veteran news broadcaster and anchor and journalist. And, normally, even when people have retired from the business like she has, they don't say what their views are. Dan Rather has not explicitly come out and endorsed Joe Biden, not to the best of my knowledge. And I read his Twitter page all the time. I don't remember ever seeing that. He's certainly not a Donald Trump fan. I think it's fair to say that. But I definitely think he's going to vote for Joe Biden. But he has not come out and said explicitly, not that I know. Maybe someone can correct me on that. So it's but Dan Rather actually hasn't retired from the news game at all. He's still doing reporting and anchoring, I think on Axios, or not Axios, on AXS TV or whatever. He's still doing stuff out there. So he's not retired. So what I'm talking about is people who are retired. Even people who are retired in the news business do not come out and tell you who they're voting for, or tell you to vote for somebody, or tell you they're endorsing someone. So this is huge from Connie Chung. And again, these videos these audios of the videos were made, within the last few weeks. I think either in October, either this month, October, or in late September. It's huge. That's a big deal. I mean, to have any kind of journalist or anchor, whether they're retired or not, come out explicitly and say, hey, I'm voting for Joe Biden. You must too. You should. You really should. That's big. That tells you that this is a serious election. So for those of you who haven't voted yet, please do. Do not wait. If you are voting by mail, absentee ballot, please return that ballot today. I cannot stress that enough. Please do not waste any time, because time is of the essence. Do not put it in the U.S. Postal Service. I would recommend dropping it off at your local county board of elections. You can look up that and find out what your county is. What county you live in, you can easily do that. And then whatever county that is, make sure you find out what the local board of elections is, what county that is, what the name of it is, what the address of the phone number is, or whatever it's called. It can be called the municipal clerk's office in some states. It could be called the sheriff's office. It could be called the Department of Elections. There's a lot of different names, but the point is, find out what your county is, drop off your ballot there. If you want to take a chance with the U.S. Postal Service, do so. But I'm telling you, there's been lots of reports of mail being slowed down. I honestly would recommend you drop it off at a drop box in your state. There's ways to find out where your drop box is. Go to iwillvote.com and you will get the information that you need, and it won't take you long to find it. iwillvote.com. Very important. And we're in the final stretch. 10 more days, 10 more voting days. And there is no time to waste. Time is not a wasting. This is the time now to get right and get real and get your mind right and vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And when I say get your mind right, I mean get into the mentality of focusing on these next 10 days. And I know everybody is fatigued. Everybody is fed up. Everybody has had enough of people like yours truly telling them to vote and vote early, specifically vote early. People have had enough of it, but the finish line is in sight. And you are now at the threshold of that long marathon, that 26-month marathon, really. And the 26 miles that are a marathon and 385 and change, that is what we're at. We're at that last part, that 385 and change, that final mile, I guess, that final mile of the 26.385. And it is incumbent upon each and every one of us now to fight. Really, really fight here. Not with paper gloves, but with our voices. Get on the horn, join a campaign, join Joe Biden's campaign and Phonebank for it. If you can spare an hour, if you can spare more than an hour, please do it today. Do it tomorrow, Sunday. Do it Monday, Tuesday, whatever you can do. Whether it's an hour, whether it's even 30 minutes, whether it's 2 hours, 5 hours, because this is how elections get closed. Be a closer. You're seeing all these people across the country now for Joe Biden speaking on his behalf. You know, the only ones who are speaking on Donald Trump's behalf are Donald Trump and his family. Seriously, there aren't that many, and maybe some of these right-wing celebrities, but there aren't very many people out there speaking for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's doing 4 rallies a day, 5 rallies a day. Why? Not just because he may have some energy that's powered by Adderall, but because he doesn't have very many surrogates stumping for him. And who would? Who could blame them? Who could blame them? Why would you want to stump for this guy? He's killed over 225,000 of your fellow countrymen and women and people. Why would you want to stump for a murderer, a genocider, and have any respect for yourself in the morning? I mean, even I don't think Rudy Giuliani's even stumping for him. And if he is, I mean, come on. These people are shills. Guy had COVID-19 and he's telling you, oh, don't worry, you can learn to live with it. I don't think so. There's so many reasons to vote for Joe Biden here. And many of them are being given to you by Donald Trump himself. The debate performance that Donald Trump had on Thursday was atrocious again. And the media, oh, well, he was sedate. That's a victory. No, it's not. Come on, the bar's set low, but why does it have to be set low? We have sunk so far in the corporate news media and in our mentality around these things because we are addicted to reality TV and we are addicted to celebrity. We have been for centuries. Oh, well, you know, he's a guy George W. Bush is a guy we can have beer with. I don't want a blooming beer. I want as nice as beer is. I don't want a blooming beer with a politician. I want her to get the job done. I want them to get the job done. I want him to get the job done. I don't want to have a beer with these folks. I'm going to be pushing these folks. That's the thing. You push these folks. You don't have beers with them. This ain't a blooming cocktail party or a country club. That's the problem, that kind of thing. And some of these campaigns, not so much Joe Biden's, but some of these other campaigns, oh, well, yeah, you can meet these people. I don't want to necessarily meet these folks. I want them to get the job done. And I'm going to keep pushing them and lobbying them. And I know you will too. But first things first. Get out there and vote today. In person, please. Wear a mask, wear gloves, wash your hands, practice physical distancing. Please. You don't just let one be the substitute for all the others. You do them all in tandem. You do them together. You do not just wear a mask but don't physically distance. You have to wear a mask and you have to physically distance. You have to be physically distanced and you got to wear some gloves. You really should. And you got to wash your hands if you're not wearing gloves. And if you are wearing gloves, wash your hands when you get home. Wash your hands. And that doesn't mean you should touch your face either. You know, be careful out here. This virus is extremely contagious. So if you're going to vote in person, be protected. You know that in a lot of these cities and states, certainly here in San Francisco, as a city, San Francisco, there is a really good protection area. They have lots of things, sanitizer, they have gloves, they have all kinds of, really, you know, they separate the machines. They spray down the machines. They practice physical distancing. They mandate mask wearing. This is how it's got to be. This is the pandemic that we're going to be experiencing for a few more years, if not longer. And we've got to be honest about that. And I think that Joe Biden is going to do something about it. He's going to do a hell of a lot more than Donald Trump. which has been next to nothing. Nothing. There's a really good documentary about this called Totally Under Control by Alex Gibney. You must see that. It's on HBO Max. It's on, I believe it's on HBO Max. It's certainly on Apple and a number of platforms. Please check that out. It's a really good documentary. I'm not sure that it is on HBO Max, but I know that it's on Apple and it's on other demand platforms. I think, you've got to watch that. I know people are watching Borat, they want to see the Rudy Giuliani thing. I get it. But you really want to watch Totally Under Control by Alex Gibney. Very important documentary. It's about Donald Trump's failings and what we could do about this virus. Really. Joe Biden's going to do a heck of a lot better job. I can guarantee you that. Right now we have, at the time I'm recording this, well over 56 million people who have already voted early. 38.6 million of them by mail and 17.8 million of them in person. There continue to be long lines all over the country. Long lines, sometimes 4 hours, sometimes longer than that. And, I'm really sorry about this. I'm sorry to see this voter suppression. I hate it. You do too. It's terrifying. Someone yesterday told me, a senior told me, that they were terrified. They were totally terrified of the suppression. And yes, it's a really big thing. But let me tell you something. And I should have said this to the person. If we vote in droves, as I've been telling you for months now, if we vote in droves and we vote in person early and we vote in droves early, and we continue to have these record-breaking numbers, nothing is going to stop this victory train for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Nothing. We will override the voter suppression. They can suppress 500,000, 1 million, 2 million. We are going to override this stuff. And the only way we can override it is by just showing up in raw numbers. Right now, these final 10 days are turnout game. This is all about turnout now. Raw, unadulterated turnout. You've heard from the candidates. You've seen them on the debate stage. The last debate was 2 days ago. It's all up to us right now. These next 10 voting days are going to be it. This is where the election gets decided. I'm telling you. And I think the election has been decided in many respects by already what we're seeing. However, do not take anything for granted. Do not take a word for granted. Believe me, don't believe the polls. Don't believe the pundits. Don't believe the prognosticators. Ignore them. I am telling you now, do not make the mistake you made in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. Do not make that mistake. Because the Joe Biden campaign through Jen O'Malley Dillon warned you, the campaign manager of Joe Biden's campaign told you that based on what she's learned and the internals and the numbers, they are saying, she said, this election is closer, a lot closer than the pundits would have you think. And then the people on Twitter are saying, do not believe these polls. You need to get out there and vote. And you need to tell others that you know to vote. You need to text your friends, your family, remind them. Now is the time. Vote early. And to that end, please stop by the Politicrat online store for merchandise so that you can show the world when you walk down your street in your neighborhood, in your town, in your city, wherever, you have that lovely, colorful t-shirt that says the words vote early on the front. And that will galvanize people to think about voting early. They will come up to you and say that they love your t-shirt. That happens to me every time I wear one of these t-shirts. But you've got to send that message without even opening your mouth to say it. You don't have to. All you have to do is check it out at the-politicrat.myshopify.com. And you can see and buy one of these lovely, colorful t-shirts and send a message. They're in all sizes, many different colors, and one's unisex and for women. Please check it out, folks. And don't forget to vote early. The 3 states that have voted early the most in terms of the raw numbers, Texas leading with 6.85 million people already early voted. Then comes California right behind it with 6.36 million people already early voted. And then Florida, third with 5.28 million people already voting. This is just amazing. And we are going to keep going here, folks, and we must keep going on National Vote Early Day. Make sure you vote early, folks. Thank you very much indeed for your time, because this is a very important weekend. We have people, President Obama out there stumping in Miami. We had the vice presidential pick and hopefully vice president-elect Kamala Harris stumping in Ohio today. We've had Joe Biden make 2 stops already, Vice President Biden, hopefully President-elect Biden. He made 2 stops today in Pennsylvania. We've had Bernie Sanders make a stop in Pennsylvania for Joe Biden. We've had Jill Biden speak at an event as well. I mean, this is critical now. All the surrogates are out there doing things. They are all over the country. And they're focusing on the real states that they know are going to be the difference makers in this election. Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. These are going to be 3 of the most important states. I think the fact that you're not seeing Joe Biden very much in Michigan leads me to believe that the campaign there thinks that it's going to win Michigan. And I think they will, given all this stuff you hear about Governor Whitmer and what's going on there. But look, all of you have to vote. Everyone who hears me now who is a registered voter must vote. I mean, voter registration is still available in a lot of states right through and on election day itself. You can still vote and register on the same day. If you are going to be one of those who waits until the 3rd of November, in many states, you can actually register on the same day you're voting. Now, you can go to iwillvote.com for that. I have a list of all of these places as well, but I think you really want to go to iwillvote.com right now, because this website offers even more comprehensive things than what I've done on my voting guide. So look, this is a critical time now. And if you haven't yet registered to vote, depending on the state you're in, make sure you do. New York State began its early voting in person today. So I hope that if you're in New York, that you get out there and vote today or vote on Sunday, whatever it might be. Please do not leave it until November 3rd. You are going to be stressed out. There's a lot of stress already in this country around this election alone. Never mind the pandemic itself and the situation that people are in. This election is stressing the hell out of people. It's stressing out the living daylights out of people. It really is. It's stressing the living daylights out of people. So it is imperative that now is the time to fight and make sure you tell as many people as you can to get out and vote. Let's show the world who we are. Let's do that right now. The world is watching us here in the United States. Let's show them what we really think of Donald Trump. Vote Joe Biden, and do it right now. John Lewis gave us his marching orders. Vote like you've never voted before. Vote as if your very life depends on it. And the country depends on it. And your life really does depend on it. So vote right now. Thank you for listening to this edition of The Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.
This year's election is going to be a little different.
Instead of one election day, we now have a voting season.
That special time of year when polls can open weeks before election day.
When your mailbox can become a voting booth.
When how you vote is just as important as who you vote for.
How, when, and where to cast your ballot depends on your state.
'Tis the season to be prepared.
This year, plan your vote.